Hi there guys, this video is going to be about a recent news article surrounding My Bloody Valentine, the famous shoegaze post-punk band. These guys. And what's inspired this video is a news article revolving around the band being unhappy about their lyrics being represented incorrectly online on Spotify, and my response is this is ridiculous. It's My Bloody Valentine, Kevin Shields, whoever is making these complaints are just being ridiculous. This is a band that sort of pride themselves on being obscure. That is what made them unique. The fact that they blended their lyrics in, put it low in the mix compared to the other instruments. That is one of their main selling points. It's like, well, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna put the vocals low in the mix and have it buried under shitloads of fuzz and reverb and reverse reverb and all kinds of frequency changes with loads of EQ pedals, then the only thing you can expect is the lyrics not to be heard. They're not going to be heard, are they, if that is what you're going for? If you're going for a mix that puts the vocals low in the mix, then how do you expect anybody to know these lyrics? And why would you complain if it's misinterpreted? Because I thought My Bloody Valentine they had this arty attitude where it's up to the listener. It's up to the listener to decide or interpret what they're hearing. I thought that was the whole idea of My Bloody Valentine. They are sold as a, not sold, I'm saying the wrong words here, but it's hard when I haven't got a script in front of me. But like, basically, I think Kevin Shields is being ridiculous. I think this is a band that just, their whole legacy is based on this one album. And that album is Loveless from 1991. 1991. I mean, think how long ago that is. It's 20. No, it's not. It's 31 years old. It's 31 years old. And the only thing they've done since then is 2013's self-titled album, which was came out in February 2013 as like wasn't it like a pay what you want kind of album, like what Radiohead with In Rainbows. I swear there was something unique about this release. Like it was I'm sure was it like download only to begin with, and then the CD came later. There's something some kind of marketing campaign that they had with it. But anyway, like even this came out 2013, so this was 22 years after Loveless, right? They had a 22-year hiatus. Yeah, they got kicked off Creation in like 93, I think it was, or was it 93? I think so. So they got kicked off for obvious reasons, because they pissed the hell out of Alan McGee for like taking a lifetime to just record like one tambourine track for Loveless. As good as that album is, I mean, it shouldn't require that length of time just to sort out a little tambourine track. It's pretty in the overall mix, it's pretty non-existent anyway. And yeah, I mean, this is the problem with Kevin Shields. I mean, he's too much of a perfectionist. Even though he denies it in several interviews, he really well and truly is. But like, yeah, back to my point. So this came out 22 years after like Loveless, right? And like even these were like demos from 1993. Like this is just stuff that was like dug up from the past. So like they basically did nothing for 22 years. And there might be like one or two songs that were like written in the 2000s or 2010s, but the majority of this apparently is just leftovers from like the Loveless sessions, or like it's ideas that didn't see the light of day after Loveless. Like a lot of this was meant to be like for the follow-up album, which should have came out in 93, 94 as a follow-up. So a lot of it is just like work to perfection that has come out 22 years later. I mean, but the point I'm trying to get at is that this is a band that they don't really work hard, do they? I mean, they're not prolific. They're not prolific releasers, are they? If that's a word. They're not prolific at releasing stuff. They have severely long gaps between each release. But this is the debate. I'm not having a go at My Bloody Valentine. I'm not ranting against them. I know it sounds like it, but I'm just trying to create a debate here. And the overall debate is, I'm not just speaking about My Bloody Valentine. I'm speaking more generally. Like do you enjoy or respect artists that have severely long gaps and they only put music out when they feel like they should? Or do you like bands that keep the fans entertained, who put releases out every 2 years, like Ride or Swerve Driver do? Like since their reunion, they've done a lot of fresh material. But you know, I'm not having a go, because I've got a real. I love My Bloody Valentine. I mean, obviously, as a shoegazer, you've got to, right? I mean, those guys are like the Beatles of shoegazing, and the Cocktail Twins are like the Elvis, or like they're like the Buddy Holly, I guess. They're like the guys before the Beatles, the guys before My Bloody Valentine, who inspired them. But yeah, I love My Bloody Valentine as much as the next shoegazer. Of course, I mean, what Kevin Shields managed to muster up with a 6-string guitar is phenomenal. He created his own signature technique in the vibrato arm and the tunings that were put together like really intricately. Like there's a lot of thought into the tuning, like where I like the way he had like you got the B string and he used to like tune it to a C, and then he would put like the D string, the 3rd string down, he would tune that to a C as well. So a lot of it is like he did a lot of like octave tuning. So he would have the same note, but like it would be like a higher register or a lower one, and that's how like he morphed the sound. How there's so much juxtaposition of tone, there's so many variations of tone when he does that strumming. It's because it's not just tuned differently. It's not just like Sonic Youth, where they just tune it to all kinds of abstract tunings. It's more like it's thoughtful, where Kevin Shields he makes it harmonise together. It's like octaves, the same note, and he makes sure that the high and low frequencies and the mid-range are represented by doing that, because you got, obviously each string has its own tone, doesn't it? Like some are like lower than others. Obviously, when you go to the top of the guitar, but not top that way, I mean top above, the thick E string at the top, obviously that's bassier than the E at the bottom. So he was clever in that way by like just getting like every ounce of tone out of his Jazzmaster or Jaguar, which were the two guitars that he predominantly used, still uses today. But yeah, I'm just trying to like really, I want people to interact with the video, and you can put your comments down below, because this is meant to be a debate video, not a rant video. So I've got a love-hate relationship with My Bloody Valentine for those reasons, because I admire artists who are prolific, and they constantly put out material, and that's great for fans like me. As a fan perspective, it's great, because you get to go to the live shows that every year or every 2 years. They're touring the new stuff all the time. So as a fan, that's what you want. You want artists to be prolific, because as a fan you have an enjoyment from it, because you get to turn up to the gigs and there's like new merch promoting the new album, and you get to collect the new CD or vinyl, or download the new album. It's more interactive as a fan when you've got a band that's active and releasing lots of stuff. But then you get the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed perspective or approach to music, where they would only make it if it's worthwhile. And I get both ideals. I get both approaches. You get the prolific, always in your face, keep yourself relevant approach, and then you've got the sort of kind of pompous way. It's kind of pompous in the way, really. It's like saying that like we're just doing our own thing, and so obviously I'm shedding an opinion on it now. I'm meant to be sort of neutral, but yeah, basically you got the Lou Reed Velvet Underground way, where you only put out an album like once every 10 years, 20 years, however long it takes to, until you think it's worthwhile, or until you think it's perfect. So there's two approaches. It's interesting, but I do prefer the bands that put out material a lot more. But like, so what I'm trying to say is that My Bloody Valentine, they don't really have a leg to stand on when they're challenging Spotify for getting their lyrics wrong. It's really not Spotify's fault. I mean, obviously I hate Spotify, but it's not for that reason. It's more because of the artist thing. Please don't interrupt my video, please. Yeah, the reason why I hate Spotify is more because of the profit share, and the artists are getting screwed over by them all the time. But they're not as bad as that other thing, are they? That started up a couple of years ago, but I think it's got shut down. What's it called? That thing that Swerve Driver did. They had that sort of Pledge Music. They're not as bad as Pledge Music, at least. I mean, those guys really were crooks, because I've given them money basically, and they've ran away with it, and I haven't even received the item that I ordered. I actually ordered Swerve Driver's Future Ruins album from 2019, and I haven't seen any of it, and they really ripped so many people off there. So at least Spotify aren't as bad as them. But yeah, I think My Bloody Valentine are being crybabies though about this. I don't think they're being very mature about it. The fact that their lyrics have been misinterpreted, like, it shouldn't matter to them, because I thought they had that kind of art school kind of thinking, that art school kind of mindset, where it's really up to the listener how they interpret the sounds. I mean, you can't even call it lyrics, because My Bloody Valentine used their vocals in a textural layering kind of way. They just see it as another instrument that blends in with the rest of the mix. I thought that was the whole concept of Loveless. I mean, I could understand if they're not happy about, if it was the lyrics to like Isn't Anything or like Ecstasy and Wine and all of their like earlier 80s stuff, then I could understand, because obviously the vocals are more prominent in their earlier material. So I could totally see why Kevin would be having a go at them for getting the lyrics wrong for like Isn't Anything, which is still regarded as a shoegaze album. It's regarded as like the first one to a lot of people, but it's still got a lot of lyrical opaqueness about it. You can still hear the vocals coming through, and it's not transparent at all, you know. It's quite prominent, and but yeah, I just think it's ridiculous. It's a good analogy would be like, it's been like the Nirvana baby, the Spencer Eldon, is it? Like when he sued, like 30 years later, he comes out and sues Geffen Records or whatever for like having a picture of him on the front. It's like 30 years later. Like, why would you do that 30 years later? Obviously the money must be getting tight for him. It's obviously just like a money grabbing move to me. I think that's, a lot of people think that's ridiculous. It's like it's just like suing like it's like Fender suing MBV for featuring a Jazzmaster on their cover like 30 years later. And it's but like, the thing is, it's like, it can't be a publicity stunt from My Bloody Valentine, because they obviously don't want publicity, do they? Otherwise they would be releasing new music all the time. And I don't like the way Kevin Shields lies. Like, he says, oh yeah, all this material's in the works. Like back in 2018 he was saying, yeah, we're going to do like well, first of all, he said we're going to do a new album. I think like in 2017 he said that, and then the following year he said we're going to divide all this new stuff we've got into, I think it was like 4 EPs he promised, which is quite a weird concept, really. Like, why wouldn't you would just make a full album with all that material, wouldn't you? Because that would make, well, it makes 16 songs, so it maybe might have to be like a double album if you were going to do it an LP format. But yeah, everything's kind of strange about My Bloody Valentine. Like, no one knows what's going through their heads. You don't see these guys. You have like the odd interview like every like once in a while. Like, I found it really interesting that Fender Jazzmaster 50th, was it 50th? Like 60th anniversary video he did, talking about why he gravitated towards the Jazzmaster in the 90s. And like, all that stuff's really cool. Like, I just don't know why they can't do more of that. And but yeah, I think it's just, you're suing, you're unhappy with Spotify for getting something wrong that everybody gets wrong. And it's amazing how even My Bloody Valentine know what the hell they're singing about, with all those loud guitars around them. And that's the selling point, isn't it? It's what makes them fall into this category of the shoegazing genre. And lots of people have took that template and been inspired by it, and in some cases some people have completely ripped it off. I mean, so many MPV copycats who bury their vocals and have the reverse reverb effects from the Electro Harmonix cathedral pedal or whatever they use in the Polaris or the Hardwire RV7. Like, all that's just inspired by Kevin Shields and My Bloody Valentine, and they just My Bloody Valentine don't even see their main selling point, and it's ridiculous. It's a stupid claim by Kevin Shields or Belinda or Debbie or Colmer. I don't know who's made it within the bands, like who's made this stupid accusation. But it's like, a good analogy would be like, it's like an artist, a painter, who you're unhappy with someone who has misunderstood your painting, even though it's just shrouded, even though it's just blobs on the canvas. That's exactly what it's like. It's just like someone, it's like Jackson Pollock, who's a great artist, by the way, and I love the Stone Roses artwork and that, but obviously it's controversial, it's divisive, it's some people think it's great, some people think his art's bad, but that's what art's all about. And it's like Jackson Pollock coming out and saying, like, can you not see my intention here? But when you look at it, all it is just blobs. And it's the same thing. It's with My Bloody Valentine. It's so distorted. It's so unclear. The lyrics are so unclear, and the music's meant to be like that. And that's why we love them, yeah? That's why we love them, right? We like that. We like the ambiguity of it. We like the nuances, the ambiguity, the mystery behind this band. That's what we love. But it's ridiculous when they're trying to be accurate. They want stuff online to be accurate about them, but I thought they loved being this mystery band. I thought they loved the animosity. I think that's the word. That they liked the mystery and the ambiguity, the kind of the art school thinking of not giving it to people, not giving their idea on a plate to people. I thought they wanted people to make their own minds up about the art. I thought that was their like mission statement. And so it just baffles me, coming out, and they don't even want attention. Not a band that strikes me as a band that want attention, because they, like I said earlier, they only release stuff when they feel like it, and they're not a band for the people. They do it for themselves first and foremost. It's whatever they do whatever makes them happy at whatever point in time. So it just seems like I can understand a big band doing this, like someone who cares about their fans and actually releases stuff prolifically, and the lyrics are like the main focal point. Like, I can understand it, like coming from like a pop group like One Direction or something, coming out and sort of being baffled about getting their songs wrong, because that could harm their career, because they build a career on commerciality, on connecting to people lyrically. That's their mission statement. Pop bands like a pop group like One Direction, one of these manufactured guys or like Ed Sheeran, people who are like trying to connect in a lyrical way. Like, it would make sense. But for a band who likes to be underground, who likes the mystery, who likes to be ambiguous with lyrics and use vocals in a way where they're blending with the guitars and synth lines and you even get the flute in like songs off the Tremolo EP, like Swallow. And this is what I'm trying to say. Like, I'm not having a go at my beloved Valentine. Obviously, like, this is works of genius, but I don't really like the word genius in music, really, because if you think about it, if everybody had the time and if everyone had the time, they would be able to figure out great things with instruments. So that's why I don't really believe in the genius tag, even though, yeah, Kevin Shields is obviously really talented. I agree with the talented word, but I don't really agree with genius, because if you think about it, music's all about, you get two choices, right? You get two choices. You either go for commerciality, and to do that it's got to be accessible, and you've got to have a strong personality, you've got to be charismatic, you've got to be sort of standing up for something and representing a demographic. You've got to be representing a demographic to be popular. But then you've got the choice of making what you want, making experimental, obscure music, but at the price of staying underground, possibly forever. So there's two choices you get, and the guys who chase the fame and the money, the instant success, the former group I was talking about, the ones who are accessible and represent a certain demographic in society and are charismatic and just want number ones all the time, those guys could do what Kevin Shields did. Those guys could come up with a reverse reverb sound and get a female vocalist to blend in with it to create this beautiful bubble cocoon of noise. Like, I hate to say it, and I hate to put people like this in the same sentence as fucking Kevin Shields and that, but I'm just trying. Harry Styles from One Direction, like, even he could, if he had the time and he wanted to do what he wanted instead of doing what his record label wanted or what the screaming teenage girls wanted, then he could be revolutionary on an instrument, you know. But because when you're going for commercial success, when you're going for that number one spot, you don't really have the time, because you're constantly touring, and you've got the pressures from the record label, the major label, which is even more important to satisfy than an indie label in some ways, because obviously the major labels invest a lot of money in their artists, and you've got a massive responsibility on your shoulders to produce stuff that's accessible, and that's going to get number one hits. So what I'm trying to say is, so Harry Styles couldn't do what Kevin Shields does, and Adam Franklin and Neil Halstead and Robin Guthrie, like all these experimental artists, because that's not the game. That's not the game that they're in. They're in a game that they've got a short amount of time, and they've just got to be whack out manufactured crap all the time, and they get people right for them. But then you've got guys like Kevin Shields and that, who do put time into experimentation. This is the other side of the coin. They put time into experimentation, and they obviously play music that's not accessible, and the lyrics are buried on purpose, and obviously that's never going to be hugely successful, is it, in the whole scope of music. It's just going to appeal to a niche market, which is perfectly fine. And what I'm saying is that people who want their music underground, they deliberately go for that. They come up with these revolutionary techniques. But the guys, the pop guys who go for number ones and stuff, they can't do that. So this is why I don't really attain the word genius to people, because if you think about it, any musician could come up with a revolutionary step in a genre or for an instrument or just music in general. But it depends what game you're playing. Are you playing the commercial game, which doesn't allow you to be experimental, or do you play the underground game, which does? And so what I'm just trying to say is, like, really it's all a mindset on what game you want to play in the music industry. Do you want to be the guys who are in the, or a household name, and you get all kinds of demographics in society turning up to your gigs and enjoying your music? Or do you want to be a niche market musician? Like, that's all it comes down to. Like, I mean, I'm just saying that, like, a million, there's no reason that a million selling album artist, there's no reason why they couldn't do what Kevin Shields does. The only thing that stands in their way is their contract and, like, time issues, and they've got to appeal to a mass audience. And so that's why I don't attain the genius tag to people, because if you think about it, if everyone had the time and free roll to experiment, then anybody could come up with something that amazes people. But it all depends, doesn't it? Like, are you trying to make music that appeals to the masses, or are you trying to appeal to a niche genre? So yeah, that's that point out of the way. But yeah, I mean, I hate to put these names together. Like, it's stupid comparing, like, pop artists to rock artists, and by rock artists I don't mean like people who ride motorbikes and get groupies every night. I mean rock as in, like, a revolutionary thing, like people who push the boundaries of music or an instrument. Yeah, I'm sorry about comparing One Direction to all this, but I'm just trying to put a general, like, overview of the music industry and just trying to convey ideas here. But yeah, back to the point. I just think it's ridiculous. Like, My Bloody Valentine, like, a band famous for lyrical obscurity and textural chaos, I find it ridiculous now that they're coming out and saying that you've misunderstood us. It's like, surely if you want the attention, just release some new music, for God's sake. I mean, it's been long enough. They in 2018 they came out, didn't they? They did, like, a tour. They played a festival, didn't they? Desert Days or something with Slowdive in America. And then they played Birmingham, that was their only English date. And they actually played 2 new songs. And then where are they? Why haven't they seen the light of day? They should at least be released on an EP by now. And they just signed to Domino Records, haven't they? Like, a year or 2 ago, they signed to Domino Records, which is a famous company that should do a world of good for them, and there's still nothing, despite signing a contract with them. I mean, they must be getting fed up. It's just going to be another creation story about to develop, I think. But anyhow, I think My Bloody Valentine need to shut up and take a lesson from Ride. Take lessons from Ride and Swerve Driver, the 2 great Oxford bands, and actually just get music out there. If you want some press, then release music, because all the fans are waiting for it. And you just can't really live on the legacy of one album for 30 odd years. 30 plus years. You can't just live on the legacy of Loveless. We've heard it so many times, and it's been the same old praise gets given to it all the time, and I mean, deservedly so, yeah. But then you can't just rave on about one album forever. Like, you've got to keep on progressing as an artist. And if it means Kevin Shields dropping the guitar altogether and like delving into something more like world music or dubstep or indie hop, then so be it. Like, I'm happy for Kevin to do that, but it's not the way to get publicity by saying, having a go at Spotify for getting something wrong that you want people to get wrong anyway. But yeah, I'm interested. I want people to be free to comment on this video. Remember, it's not a rant video, it's just me putting this idea out there of, there's a debate between I mean, there's a couple of debates in this, I guess. There's a couple of debates that I created. One being the sort of prolific artist versus the artist that only does what they want when they want. The ones who satisfy the fans and the ones who just play for themselves. But then there's also the second debate I've laid down, which is, well, what do you think about? Second debate would be like the lyrical idea. Like, do you think bands should be like suing? Do you think bands should be suing companies like 30 years later for like a mistake that shouldn't even need to be debated? Or do you want should people just shut up and just get on with stuff and create their own music if they want their legacy? This is the problem with this shoegazing thing. There's just so much like legacy driven bands. Too many artists that rely on legacy all the time. And I hope Slowdive release an album this year, and because they need to stop living on the legacy of Souvlaki. I mean, they did that 2017 album, which is great, so it keeps them away from that My Bloody Valentine long hiatus reputation by releasing that 2017 album with Slow Mo on it and Sugar for the Pill, and it's great. It's a great comeback album. It could have been a bit better though, because it is only like 8 tracks on it, and it could have been like, might even be just 7 actually. 7 tracks. It could have been at least 11. So it wasn't the best comeback ever. The best comeback by a shoegaze band was probably Swerve Driver with I Wasn't Born to Lose You. I thought that was a perfect album, and I think it was the most shoegazy album that they ever did. I mean, people love Mezcal Head and Rays for very good reasons, but I think really when you talk about pedalboard stomping and beautiful textures and tones and effect pedal sorcery, I think I Wasn't Born to Lose You was their best album that they've ever done. Even Future Ruins wasn't quite as good in my opinion. I don't think it really had enough energy about it. There's a lot of sort of slow kind of not ballady songs, but how to describe it? It's kind of like a slower kind of Teenage Fan Club kind of vibe that they got on a lot of the songs, but I missed some of their sort of harder rockers on Future Ruins. Like I really enjoyed was it Last Rites, the second track on I Wasn't Born to Lose You, and Autodidact was like a perfect radio hit. It's got such a good uplifting feel to that song, which I really admire, and it's got a really good like kind of interlude in the middle as well. Is it an interlude? Is it like a bridge? I'm not sure what you call that section. It's not a middle eight because it doesn't last for 8 bars. To qualify as a middle eight, it has to be 8 bars. This is structure is something that I've really studied a lot. But yeah, I mean, there's a few debates created by this. I mean, I just don't really understand, like, My Bloody Valentine and Kevin Shields. They're kind of like a walking paradox. Like, I don't know what their intentions are. Like, it's like sometimes they put out these press statements and you think, right, they're doing this for the fans, and like Kevin's being a good guy, but then sometimes I just think they're really pompous and they're just like Radiohead in that regard. Like, I got a real love-hate relationship with My Bloody Valentine. That's the bottom line, and I'm sure many people do. I mean, I see people in the shoegaze group on Facebook, and I think many people feel the same way about them. I think lots of people love My Bloody Valentine for great reason, but I think we would like to see a lot more from them, and I just wish they were a bit more fan friendly. And I'm sure if you meet them in person, they're great people, and I've seen like pictures of like Kevin Shields signing stuff for fans, and yeah, I think they're good people, but they just got a strange business mindset. They got a strange business strategy, and they seem like a band that's hesitant, and that they're not sure whether they wanna be like big or like keep underground and not sell out or sell out, and there seems to be a lot of confusion about like what they want to be, what they want to be remembered as, and seem to be scared of like tarnishing their legacy all the time. But I just think it doesn't matter. Like, I think so many other contemporary bands of their time have proven that it's worth coming back, and I don't think anybody's wrecked their legacy. Out of all of their contemporaries, you think of Swerve Driver, and you think of Dinosaur Jr., and you think of Lush, although their reunion wasn't very successful, was it? But that was only because of there was some like kind of heated moment within the band, I think, between Mickey and Emma, which is a real shame because that Blind Spot EP had so much potential. They could have made a whopping great album after that. I'm just glad I saw them on their final gig in Manchester in 2016 at the Manchester Academy. Such a special moment, like Monochrome being their last song, and such a beautiful ending to what was a real kind of hopeful reunion. Like, it's a shame that went pear-shaped big time. But apart from that, I mean, all the other contemporaries of MBV like have done really well, and they've got massive crowds for their shows, and it's not just because they're relying on. It's not because they're resting on their laurels. It's because they're actually getting decent stuff out there. I mean, not only did Ride produce 2 new albums, but they made the EP Tomorrow's Shore as well, which had some risky stuff going on in there as well. Like, one of them's just like a pure pop hit with like synth pads and like kind of like Churches inspired, and it does sound like a modern pop hit, and there's also like a lot of electronic elements, which is quite unusual for them. So yeah, My Bloody Valentine just need to take samples from them. Like, you either do the Ride Swerve Drive thing and Slow Dive thing and build on your legacy, or just shut the hell up. That's what I think. But yeah, comment below, and yeah, it's ridiculous, really ridiculous claim made by MBV. But the lyrical thing where all it's just meant to be another musical instrument. That's all I thought they ever believed in. But it always just seems to be another side of MBV. There's something pompous and there's just something a bit ugly. There's an ugly side to them that I just don't like. But obviously, yeah, they're great bands that have done great things, and I want this to be seen as a debate rather than a rant, because I've got that love-hate relationship with the band, and yeah, I want to see what you guys think. So just comment down below, and yeah, let me know what you think, shoegazers. See you later.